Hey everybody, Shay here for this final part of this massive haul that I did over the last 3 months at the thrift shops for some used books. I'm going to be trying to get through the last two columns of books here. They all seem like they got a bit of a theme going on, and so I'm going to try to match them up into two parts. Most of these are fantasy or sci-fi fantasy or action fantasy. We'll get to it when we get to it. I'm going to talk about the first set of books that I found, and awkwardly enough, I ended up getting the first book of The Witcher, the one that I was missing of the entire set, which you can just barely see in the camera right there in the corner. All the red ones here ending with The Lady in the Lake. So I was only missing The Last Wish, and I found this one first, and I was like, you know what, I've been looking for the one with the red strip on it, but I haven't been able to find it. I saw it on my spreadsheet that I check while I'm in the thrift shop to see what I'm missing, and there was a gap there, and I was like, damn it, I still don't have the damn book. And so I ended up getting The Last Wish, but little did I know, I had bought this maybe a week or two prior. I just didn't update my list, and this was on the pile. I thought maybe I found it and I didn't pick it up because maybe there was damage. There's a little bit of a bent on the cover there, but I think I was just desperate enough to just start this series, and I had the gap of the book one, you know what I mean? And I'd like to play The Witcher 3, and so I was thinking of, like, when I go back to play The Witcher 3, I might actually do it in a different way, just because YouTube works in a strange way nowadays, where just let's plays or playthroughs don't really work on their own. So I'm thinking I'm going to read the entire series while playing Witcher 3, and it'll be a bit of a collab, as YouTube, like, they have this collab feature where you can have two channels and you can list them both as the content creator. It's kind of a hacky way of basically saying, look, I got two channels, that one focuses on games, one focuses on books, and if I read books while playing a game, there's maybe a collab there with myself. With the two channels, and behind the scenes it just allows the data to be shared between the both channels, and something I've always wanted for YouTube, and be able to put those hobbies on different channels to attract the right kind of audiences. And maybe they don't want gaming videos, they just want to have your opinions on books. So that might be one of those gateway ideas where I'm playing the game, but I'm also doing maybe some book vlog stuff along the way, or in between the episodes or during, and then I'll cut them out so that all of you who only care about the books, maybe you'll get like my opinions on the books as I go, something like that. Anyways, I bought both of the books, so I'm going to be giving this one away because I want the ones that match. There you go. Or I mean, this one is it's so good quality. It's like in perfect condition. This one's got some damage, but it's the red. It matches on the shelf. So I'm going to move on. The next one is mentioned on BookTube a lot when people are doing their top 10 lists and whatnot, and it's called the Gormenghast novels, Titus Grown, Gormenghast, and Titus Alone. So there's this chunky tome here, omnibus, I suppose, of all three books in one. I don't know if they were released as three novels and this is just a collected edition, but I'm so happy that I found a collected edition, especially one that is in such great condition. And I mean, even the spine is just a little bit bowed, but there's no actual cracks in the spine, which is crazy. And it's a relatively perfect condition book. So it's very small font in here. It's a chunky beast. I'm well past 1,000. Yeah, it's about 1,200 pages. So, but it's three books, and I've heard really great things about this. I'm a huge fan of the Planescape setting of the early 90s Advanced Dungeons and Dragons multiverse kind of setting. I know there's like the game Torment, Planescape Torment. I've been talking about video games, so I might as well bring that one up again because I'm thinking of maybe playing that one again because I just want to relive the ideas in Planescape. I've been pulling out all the old Planescape books again and just kind of looking at them again and reading sections of them again. And then I found this book. It was not planned that way, but just like the world was telling me that it's time for you to pick up the Gormenghast and see what it's all about. Why do I bring up Planescape? I was almost derailed myself. Is the way that I've heard people talk about this book on BookTube is that it's that kind of broadness of ideas, but I think it's like a castle, but the castle just like, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. It's like, is it infinite? Like, I don't remember the details, but it's something like that where like it's so large that you can't explore the entire thing. Might have been a line I pulled away from one of the people talking about this. None of them were spoiler reviews, so I don't know what the story idea is at the end of the day. The parts that I remember in people talking about the Gormenghast is that it's how big the idea is of the space. I'm not making any sense. Those who know the Gormenghast will know what the hell I'm talking about, even though I don't. But I'm looking forward to it because not really truly understanding what people are talking about is what's making me really want to read the Gormenghast. So I'm hoping to get to this year. This feels really big for this year because I got so many other things to read. And I don't know if I have to put time, like mental time, to really get through this because, I'm also wanting to get through the Malazan series. So you can see this is going to get, it's getting kind of big. Oh, and with that in mind, another BookTube mention that keeps coming up and this is the one I know even less about, but in like the span of 3 or 4 months, when I found this, I probably found this 2 months ago, 1 month ago. In the span of that time, I think I might have seen this come up on 3 or 4 YouTube channels, and it's The Lies of Locke Lamora. And when I say channels, I mean like top 10 lists, that kind of thing, like books you have to read or you have to try, or maybe they inspired by like the channel, like people learning about it. These like, I don't know if it's an indie author, even the Scott Lynch. I'm not sure. I don't remember many details, man. It looks kind of like a cool setting. It's got this, I don't know, Venice, New Orleans. Does that make sense? I'm not even sure, man. There's like swashbuckler-esque kind of things. Why this was such an awesome find here. There's actually a quote on here by George R. R. Martin. A fresh, original, and engrossing tale by a bright new voice. So maybe it is a new author on the scene. I'm not sure I'd consider them indie. Someone can let me know, because again, I know very surface level about Locke Lamora, but it's that I saw this spine. It was just shining on the shelf there, and I was like, wait. I've heard of Locke Lamora. I've heard BookTube talk about it. And I found that book, but then I found this one a little bit further away, and I was like, let's just pick this up and try it out. And I didn't know how many books were part of this series, so I got a little bit worried about like, oh my god, am I gonna have to buy them new? And if I had to, it wouldn't matter, because these are in perfect condition. They're in perfect condition. We're talking. I mean, yes, there's a little bit of a bow there because maybe they were on a shelf weird, or I'm holding it weird. The point is, there's not even a crease. There's no bow, even in the spines for this thing. It's crazy. Look at that. That's perfect condition. So we got the Locke Lamora, we got the Republic of Thieves, and then even further away in some other section, I found Red Seas under Red Skies. I think this might have been in a whole different section, like what is that? What's the Western, or not spy? What the hell? Like there's like this pulp section, or the older spy, not like mystery, spy, crime. I'm not making any sense. There's like a mystery and crime sections. There's pretty big, but then there's one shelf which is like the more pulpy Western and older pulp spy fiction, and I think this was in there. And I was like, Red Seas under Skies, but the trait dress is what called out to me, and that's why trait dresses have to matter. They have to match, because when you're walking around, it gets imprinted. Like good design gets imprinted, man. And so I found all 3 books, and they're in perfect condition, man. The pages are even white. They're still crisp. It's crazy. Anyways, I got each of them for about $5.50. Not about, for exactly $5.50 Canadian, which is really, really, really cheap for a brand new book. So I'm not sure how many books are in the series. I suppose is Red Seas the 3rd book. I can check the inner cover here and see if this is a trilogy, or is it 2 trilogies. So I did them a little bit out of order. It's the Lies of Locke Lamora, and then it's the Red Seas under Red Skies, and then it's the Republic of Thieves is book 3, and I'm not seeing a list inside here. And the only list I see inside book 3 is the 2 books before it, so I'm wondering if it's a trilogy. Anyways, if it's a trilogy, that's great. That's great. It means like I would like to get this one onto a stack, because I've heard enough about it that it does seem interesting, and I would say it's just the covers. You just look at the art on the covers, and that sort of tells a little bit of the story too, in the world and the kind of world that it's going to be about. Like I'm saying, like intrigue, assassins, espionage, maybe, but like Victorian-esque flavor. I'm not sure. Maybe a little earlier than that. I'm not sure, because of the seas reference. So is it like pirates or swashbucklers or corsairs? I don't know. But I'm excited to kind of get into that series, because I love jumping into a new world that has like a vibrant, new, fresh setting for me to kind of really delve into and really have fun in. So with that said, I'm going to jump to setting that for me was probably the first books that really got me into reading. Like when I really started getting into fantasy in particular, it was the Dragonlance series, and I ended up finding book 2 of the Heroes series for Stormblade, and I found book 3, which is Weasel's Luck. And these were books that I had read back when I was in high school in the early 90s, I believe. I borrowed them from a friend. I'm trying to move away to see if you see the bottom shelf there. You don't, though. There's like Ravenloft books here, which are from TSR, which was Dungeons and Dragons. That was the gothic horror setting of the Dungeons and Dragons. And below that is 2 of these shelves is basically Dragonlance books from the 80s to the 90s, some of them from the 2000s. So I've read a lot of them, but I had gaps in my collection. I would sign these out of the library, for example. Yeah, some of my friends were all getting into this, like running the game. I was a player in the D&D Dragonlance setting for with friends and stuff like that through the 90s as well. Huge love. I have a love for the main series, of course, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, the world that they created, and I'm shocked that I don't hear more people on BookTube talking about the Dragonlance like books. There's like Driss, like there's Driss is over here somewhere, and Forgotten Realms, right? And it's a massive library of books there too. But Driss is the one that like hit the mainstream, like people know Drist and R.A. Salvatore, and the names come up, and he's a well-known name, but Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman were the names. They were the names. I mean, there's a couple other ones, right? But yeah, Dragonlance. But yeah, I've been finding just a few Dragonlance along the way. In the thrift shops, I didn't pull any of them out because they're kind of organized in the stack now. I maybe found maybe 4 or 5. I can't remember. I probably have past vlogs that talk about me pulling out some Dragonlance. I ended up having 2 copies of the first volume of the Dragonlance trilogy. So I used to have the original copies, this one, and the other one with the first volume of this was the brown cover. And I've seen that one now at the thrift shop twice, but they're in so bad condition that I don't end up picking it up. And my versions are like 30 plus years old, and they're still in relatively good condition. And I lent these around to friends, but I lent around the first copy, and I never came back. And I think I even had 2 versions of it at one point, and both of them are gone. Maybe I got this from a friend. He gave all his books to me, I believe, and he had one of these versions in his collection. And I was like, oh, it's not the same cover. It's not the same cover, but at least I have the trilogy, the first trilogy collected. I'm bringing these up because if you haven't read Dragonlance Chronicles, read these 3 novels. They're an amazing epic that I believe should be talked about more often than they are. The other trilogy worth mentioning, since I'm already kind of getting in the weeds here, is the Legends trilogy that comes after the Chronicles series, and this follows the 2 twins, which also sets up a lot in the world itself and main players of the world from there onward. The companions, there's like a Tales series which goes into like short stories that set in the world. There's a Prelude series which sort of focuses on each of the characters in the original Chronicles, and there's 6 books for those so that you get more granular experiences with the characters that are in the main series. This is so expansive, and I highly recommend you checking out Dragonlance if you haven't already. Before I derail completely through it like 30 or 40 books, we're going to leave it at that. We're going to move on to another series that I remember it being one of the first books how do I say it? Because I know there's always like a first, like I had these first time memories, but they can't all be first time memories. There was a book I signed out from the library when I was maybe 10 or 11 or 12 that I ended up constantly renewing the sign out because I loved it so much, and it was part of Anne McCaffery's world. For the Dragons of Pern, it was a book about, I think it was called Dragons of Pern. No, hold on. The Art of the Dragons of Pern, The Anatomy of Dragons of Pern. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't like a novel. It was a book about the dragons from the Dragons of Pern and how they worked and their anatomy. And what I loved about it so much is that, like, I remember the art of it because I would redraw the art inside this book of the skeletal and muscular structure of the dragons. That's all I kind of remember of the book. That's why I love the idea of like these dragons that weren't really traditional dragons. And for a 10 to 12-year-old mind, like still getting into fantasy, I hadn't really gotten into the Dragonlance stuff yet. Like, it was an interesting take, and I had never really explored beyond that. I might have tried to read Dragons of Pern. Is that the first novel in the series? I don't think I finished it because I think I was too young to get invested, I guess, until I got into tabletop gaming and getting into those novels, and then that became my gateway into reading some denser, or not denser, but like longer running series, and like committing to worlds that are built within these series. So this was the first Anne McCaffery book I found at the thrift halls, which reminded me of like, man, I really want to find more of her books and get into this world and like just commit to another run, and really explore what this world could be like. But I can never find books. But I got lucky in the last month and then finding a couple of them. So I found Dragon Quest, Further Adventures of Pern. These are not going to be in order. I do have a spreadsheet now that I'm trying to track so that I can keep my eye out on how many books are out there and which ones I'm missing, etc., etc. There are a lot. I believe she passed away a couple years ago, and her husband and her daughter are taking over or finishing some of the stories or continuing the lore in this book. Maybe I have those details wrong. I hope I don't, but I think I read that on Wikipedia while I was getting the list of books. Like, for example, this one, Dragon's Fire's Anne McCaffery with Todd McCaffery. So I believe, based on her notes, I don't know what the history is of like how these are done, but these were all relatively cheap, like $4, $3 for these mass market paperbacks. This one's they're not in perfect condition, a little bit of warpage on the cover. You can see with the light glare right there, but it's okay. We got Dragon's Eye, which is one of the earlier ones as well. So I'm trying to get at least the first like 3 or 4 so I can dive right in to the first set of books, right? But I don't think I have those yet. I got the Master Harper of Pern. I remember like there being something like there's a telekinesis bond or something like that between the riders and the Dragon Riders of Pern. Maybe that's what the first book was called. Anyways, there's like a connection or a bond or something. They talk, and I was like, that was so cool. Because then I got into Dragonlance, and there's like the dragons and there's dragon knights there, and so I never understood why I never went back and picked up Dragon Riders of Pern. I should pull up my spreadsheet real quick. It's Dragonflight. So there's Dragonflight, Dragon Quest, Dragon Song, is the trilogy of Pern, and I don't have those yet, unfortunately. I have Dragon Quest, which is book 2. Unfortunately, I gotta find book 1 and 3 still, and then I'll have the first trilogy. Or maybe they've been collected, and there's an omnibus out there with the trilogy. That would be great to find as well, especially in hardcover. I would rebuy it. There's like 20 plus books, 20 to 27, I would say. One of them is the short stories. There's 7 of them with her husband, one of them just her husband, and one of them with Gigi or Gigi. McCaffery, the daughter. I think that's where I picked up on it being a daughter. The name came up while I was collecting my lists, and that's 2018 is the last book I have that came out, called Dragon's Code. So there's a bit of a run here. There's 27 books in total that I've got recorded. Maybe there's like, again, that Art of Dragons of Pern. I'm not sure. The one that I remember as a kid, like really, really early on. I would love to find that one again, just because it'd be the nostalgic discovery if I was able to pull it off. I'm going to try to get through the last 3 here, because we're reaching the end. One series I got super invested in as a kid, and this was the one where like it was blowing my mind, because I was young enough where the writing was denser, to the point where it actually took me a little longer to read. I will actually at least pull out the first 3 here, because it'll give context. But it was the Wildcards series by George R.R. Martin. Like, people know George R.R. Martin from the Game of Thrones, or the Song of Ice and Fire. Song of Fire and Ice. That's what I mean. I keep forgetting the name of it. I knew George R.R. Martin because of the Wildcard series. I love this book. So much so, I have 2 versions of this book, because I ended up having book 1, 2, and 5 as a kid. And these were, like, when I was a kid, like early 90s, I would have been, young teenager, but I would go to the bookstores and try to find these books, and I could never find them. And again, in the 90s, this was before the internet, folks. This was before eBays. This was before Amazons. This was before any of that stuff. But so when these went out of print, they were out of print. So you'd go to the bookstore here, you'd check the shelves, and you'd hope to God that you found the one book that you needed in the continuity. And I got the 5, and then I went to university. I just lost track of all of these things. So I ended up reading the book 1. I ended up reading Aces High, which is book 2, and I ended up reading part of book 5, because I wanted book 3 and 4. So I could read them in continuity. I got book 3 here. I just pulled out just because of it. Joker's Wild. I love that their titles of the books were all like terms from like card games and stuff like that. And I love the premise of this game. It was so comic booky, and I was huge into comics from the late 80s all the way through the 90s. Huge into comics. And this was like comics in prose form, which was a completely new experience for my young teenage mind. And it was adult. It was very adult. There's some stories in here that are very adult. The premise is fairly simple. Crash landing in the fuel, I believe, of the ship, if I can recall, like 30-year memory here. The fuel of the ship ends up dumping on, is it New York? Just New York? I don't remember like the exact details. I'm going to be rereading this entire series. It creates aces, which are humans that get superpowers, but they don't have any physical deformity. And then it creates jokers, which are humans that get mutated because their powers actually mutate their physiology or something like that. And then the more I read about the history of Wildcards, this is again 96, when the internet came to schools and stuff like that, and university, I was always on the web scouring like BBSs and sites. People don't even know what these terms mean. I was like really delving into like art and writing and stuff like that, and these fan communities before what we know of them today, right? Whole wiki pages are developed. But back in those days, it had to be like a crazy fan that just started gathering notes together and interviews and would put things online, or the authors would have pages in like the late 90s, 98, 90. They was really crappy web pages, but you'd find out little tidbits in here. And I still remember some of the details along the way from George R. R. Martin's like the history of this, where it was basically like a gaming group that he played with in the 80s. I think it was a GURPS rule-based superhero game that they used to play, and those authors were friends. And so it's like a bunch of short stories in here, and the format is what they call a mosaic, so as opposed to a multi-POV, but it's all in one continuity, that kind of thing. This is more like you're getting snapshots of a world. I mean, there might be a theme around each of the book, but you're getting one point of view of a character, but it's not like Games of Thronesian style where like it all tells this bigger arc. In a world building sense, yes, but it's more like a mosaic style, because there are some stories in here that I have been burned in my memory for 30 years or more at this point. My God, I've derailed. And so I really want to get back to Wildcards. So it's the story I was going to say is that then eBay comes around in the early 2000s, so 2005, 2008 or so. I'm like, I have to own the Wildcard series, and I found someone selling them on eBay. And at that time, it was like I think I paid over $200 for I think it's 14 books in the series of this mass market paperback edition, and it was a lot of money at the time. But again, this was early internet days. This was early marketplace days. Like there's no real like the competition wasn't really out there, and so some of these like really out of print books, people were able to sell them for more money because they could afford to. And I was so desperate to get the series, and I finally got it. But then I just got so distracted I wasn't able to like actually read. And then since then they started producing more books. Like they started getting they got a deal with another publisher, and now I got some of the new books. This is going to turn into the Wildcards series. But then since then they got a new publisher, and they started releasing other books in the series, like current day. And so I'm kind of now I have to collect these, like I just buy them new now because I don't want to risk losing them. So there's a long way of coming back around to, so what did I find at the thrift shop? Well, they're re-releasing the books in these awesome paperback editions, these big editions, and this is perfect quality. This is like, it wasn't read. This is perfect quality. So we got book 2 here, or book 3, Joker's Wild. And we got book 2 here, Aces High. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. These books are so nice. And so I'm probably going to buy book 1 new at this point. And I don't need to rebuy these. But like, I have such a history with wanting to get into this series so badly. And these are in perfect condition, man. Like the pages are still white. It's crazy. These for each of these for $6. So I'm looking forward to possibly, I mean, it'd be crazy if they release all 14 books in this format. That would make my eBay excursion to find all 14 of the other old books kind of a kick in the ass because that's what do you do? Yeah, I guess I could sell the old series. It is a legacy series, you know what I mean? It's the first prints of the book. So someone might still want those original ones. Like, I mean, crazy person like me, I always like the original. Like, I like to feel like what the original prints were, you know? But these are so pretty. They're so good, and they feel good, and they're just, they're so good, and I love this series so much. And I left this one for last because, and it's sort of connected, is that one of the writers in the Wildcard series that is a buddy of George R.R. Martin's is Roger Zelazny. I forget what story he wrote in Wildcards, but his name I always remembered his name as a sci-fi writer that I wanted to check out at some point, and I don't believe I ever have. And then I found this crazy tome of a book on the shelf called The Great Book of Amber. You see that down there? It says Chronicles. There's 1 to 10 books in one, folks, of the Roger Zelazny science fiction, I guess, epic. I had no idea this was a thing. I had to look it up on Wikipedia to see what the heck it was and if it was any good. And I just, like, when I was scrolling around, I was like, oh my God, there's so many books here. And then I read the cover a little closer. I was like, there are 10 books, and it's the entire series. So of course I had to pick this up. All the novels of the towering fantasy saga, complete in one volume. The Great Book of Amber. Bum, bum, bum. So I got my first Roger Zelazny book read, and I'm probably going to try to do this year. Because, again, like Wildcards, this has been an author that I've been really wanting to just experience and see what their writing style is like, because I still have those memories from 30 years ago from reading Wildcards. So I'm going to start adding Wildcard books to my TBRs throughout the year. God damn it, I'm going to try to get through them. I don't think I'm going to get through the entire Wildcard series, but I'm going to goddamn try. And then this one right here, these are 10 books. So I'm going to try to get all 10 of these books done this year as well, just because this is going to be an accomplishment. So derailed a little bit on the Wildcards topic. I'll cut that down into something sensible for all of you, but it did connect back into the Roger Zelazny find, which was pretty massive for me. And that is it. That is the last book of the massive 60 or so books that I found over the last 3 months at the thrift hauls. And now I'm going to possibly go back tomorrow. So I'm going to get these on my list, get everything updated, and I'm going to start recording some TBR videos again, because I find without doing the TBR videos, I don't hold myself accountable to actually get through these books. And then I love sharing these experiences along the way as well. There's like that extra motivator for me to want to find time to put into reading, and it's something you have to carve out the time to get into these books. It's not like I love buying the books for collection, especially these older kind of books. I just like to have the collections around. Listen, I'm going to retire someday, and then I'll have a bunch of reading until for as long as I want, you know what I mean? But I do want to try to get back to a pretty aggressive reading schedule. Again, I can read pretty fast when I commit the time to it, especially on the weekends, and so I really need to create a motivator for that. And I think for me, it's going to be to do at least one TBR a month at the beginning, of course, and then see how far I get. Some of these that I find along the way will be added to the list so I can start chipping away at some of these series that have been around for like 40 years. And I really want to chip away at, maybe historically, I want to get some of these older books also read and caught up to the modern era. Derailing again, but like in the last 10 years, there's a bunch of new authors on the scene that I'd love to get into, especially the ones that come up on BookTube a lot. And some of them have been pointed up here, like, of course, Scott Lynch, etc., right? The Brandon Sandersons of the world, the Joe Abercrombies, the Gwyn books. I'm looking across the darkness there. There's like so many books that I have to get to, but then I have all of these, like what I call my legacy shelves, you know? And I just feel like there's a massive gap there where I'm chasing the new stuff and I'm finding all this older stuff from the thrift shops, but now I need to find some harmony, and I need to find like half of the books need to be from like the legacy shelves, and then maybe half of the books will be from like newer reads, so that I can try to keep up with some of the hype that's going on out there as well in the community. So thanks for checking out these vlogs, and I'll catch you in the next videos. Don't forget to explore, engage, and inspire, buddy. Peace.